Hello, this is Koobly Doobly again. I know I just uploaded that video, but we're jumping right into it. So basically, for my first video, I think I want to analyze some music. And when I say analyze, I don't mean like full, super duper depth dive on it. I just want to listen to it and like infer stuff that happens in it, like listen to some of the choices made or some lyrics or something and take a creative guess on why I think maybe it was put in there. And so take it with a grain of salt because, I don't know why they actually put it in there. And if you do, then, or if you know facts about the songs I'm doing, please leave them in the comments because I love to learn. So there's that. Also, quick disclaimer, I don't own this music, obviously, and I don't rate it because I think all music, anything can be music, and I learned that in a music class, that anything can be music, any recorded sound can be, and anything that is recorded usually has like a reason behind it, a thought behind it, even if the reason is just because, or if they're bored, or if they want it to sound bad. I think taking the action to do it is a cool reason, and I think, who am I to rate that and judge that? Like, I'm here to listen to it and interpret it in my own way, right? Just like how any art is supposed to be. So I don't rate it, but if I don't like it or whatever, or if I really love it, like, of course I'll share that. But anyway, in my first video, I'm going to be listening to Oh Comely by Neutral Milk Hotel. God, this piece of hair is working with me. Oh Comely by Neutral Milk Hotel. I have heard it before, and I love it, and for a while there, I was on a really heavy Neutral Milk Hotel kick. But, I've inferred a lot of stuff about this song and really tried to dig into the lyrics and understand, why did he write this? What is the meaning behind it? And I'm all about that. So yeah, we're going to be listening to it again today. Okay, so I'm going to pull up the lyrics here. Alright. You guys should listen to it, by the way. I don't want to play it because I'm scared of getting like copyrighted or something. Yeah, so anyway, here are the lyrics. I'll read them off. I'll start with the first verse. Oh comely, I will be with you when you lose your breath, chasing the only meaningful memory you thought you had left, with some pretty, bright and bubbly, terrible scene that was doing her thing on your chest. But oh comely, it isn't as pretty as you'd like to guess. In your memory, you're drunk on your automy. It doesn't mean anything at all. So I started by trying, thinking more about what the word comely meant, and it essentially just means like pretty, attractive to look at, or like intriguing even, right? So could be talking about just someone who he's infatuated with, or someone who could be enthralling. So I feel like he's talking about like okay. I will be with you when you lose your breath, chasing the only meaningful memory you thought you had left. So obviously, like, he'll be there when this pretty thing is dying and kind of going through recalling all the memories of life. But that memory isn't as pretty as they'd like to guess, right? Like, it's something that maybe led to something darker, or didn't lead to be awesome later, but in the memory itself, it's really nice. Terrible scene that was doing her thing on your chest, so maybe it ended badly with whatever the she could be to this comely person. In your memory, you're drunk on your automy. It doesn't mean anything at all. So, I feel like I need more context. Oh, comely, all of your friends are all letting you blow. Bristling and ugly, bursting with fruits falling out from the holes of some pretty bright and bubbly friend you could need to say comforting things in your ear. Again, talking to them, and bursting with fruits falling out from the holes of some pretty bright and bubbly friend you could need to say some comforting things in your ear. So I guess the fruits could just be like from the friend to the comely person, advice or maybe words that could lead to infatuation. Yeah, the friend who's saying comforting things in their ear could be and then, bursting with fruits falling out from the holes. The comforting things they say in their ear could be just because they're comforted by that, they get this kind of maybe like trauma bond kind of thing, you know what I'm saying? Which would make sense to the first verse, right? Because it isn't as pretty as you like to guess, and maybe becoming infatuated with that person or friend or whatever ended up rocky. Alright, so let's move on to the next one. But oh comely, there isn't such one friend that you could find here, standing next to me. Only my enemy. I'll crush him with everything I own. Say what you want to say. Hang for your hollow ways, moving your mouth to pull out all your miracle for me. So, that friend that they were infatuated with, obviously, is maybe not there in that moment when they're dying. It's only the narrator who's there. And also referring to this friend as their enemy. So maybe the narrator was infatuated with this comely person and, wanted to be with them and wanted to be with them the whole time while they were in this thing with this friend, which obviously might have not gone well in the long run because it wasn't as pretty as they'd like to guess. Terrible scene, right? So, well, wait a minute. Okay, so that friend might be the comely's friend, but not the narrator's friend. It's his enemy because of what I just said. Took a second. Say what you want to say. Hang for your hollow ways, moving your mouth to pull out all your miracle for me. Well, if you think about what has already kind of gone down, it would make this comely person like selfish, maybe, or inconsiderate, or like there's not enough self-care there, let alone care for what's going on around them. So hollow, right? Yeah, so let's move on to the next one. Your father made fetuses with flesh-licking ladies while you and your mother were asleep in the trailer park. Thunderous sparks from the dark of the stadiums, the music and medicine you needed for comforting. So make all your fat, fleshy fingers to moving, and pluck all your silly strings, and bend all your notes for me. Let's do that first square, because it's a long verse. It's a very textured verse. Like, the words that were chosen were obviously meant to convey some sort of picture, right? And so, like, the texture of the words are just as important as the meaning to affect, how a song sounds and the whole kind of overall vibe to it. I don't have synesthesia, I think it's pronounced, but this verse always kind of tasted like how, like, fingers would taste in your mouth, like that kind of irony, right? That's always how I felt at this part of the song. But anyway, maybe it's referring to this comely person, their background. Growing up in a trailer park, father had infidelity with the mother, and in the dark, like, uncertain times, those nights when he wasn't there, kind of finding comfort in music. Thunder sparks from the dark of the stadiums, the music and medicine you needed for comforting. So, like, maybe concerts, right? So, like, finding comfort from going out to live shows and getting that, or in medicine could even mean drugs while going to concerts. And leading to this comely person making music inspired from those times because they found comfort in it, so they do it. So make all your fat, fleshy fingers to moving, and pluck all your silly strings, and bend all your notes for me. Maybe bend all your notes for me could be like, you know, not only was their past trauma and comfort their reason for doing music, but maybe the narrator that they may have been around, like, also inspired them to make music, because maybe the narrator did too. Bend all your notes for me, so that's kind of what I'm getting a little bit. Or maybe like they wrote songs for him. Okay, right? So let's move to the next one. Soft, silly music is meaningful, magical. The movements were beautiful, all in your ovaries, all of them milking with green, fleshy flowers, while powerful pistons were sugary, sweet machines. Say that 5 times fast. Smelling of semen all under the garden was all you were needing when you still believed in me. Say what you want to say and hang for your hollow ways, moving your mouth to pull out all your miracles for me. Okay, again, the music is obviously very comforting, very big part of this comely person's life. The movements were beautiful, all in your ovaries, all of them making green fleshy flowers. So maybe this is kind of like moving from childhood to puberty, right? And music may have became more meaningful during that time because puberty is a hard time. And then it switches from that to, while powerful pistons were sugary sweet machines, smelling of semen all under the garden was all you were needing when you still believed in me. So when I first listened to it, I analyzed it in a kind of way that was like, garden could maybe represent, like, genitalia, because I guess, pubic hair. So smelling of semen all under the garden was all you were needing. So maybe once they got to a certain age, after puberty, much later, they lusted for this narrator, right? Maybe before or after meeting this friend. I don't know. They lusted for the narrator, and obviously, because it's all they were needing when you still believed in me, right? So that's how I always kind of felt it. They wanted the narrator. And then it goes back to say what you want to say and hang for your hollow ways, moving your mouth to pull out all your miracles for me. Kind of talked about that a little bit. All right, next. I know they buried her body with others, her sister and mother and 500 families, and she will remember me 50 years later. I wish I could save her in some sort of time machine. Know all your enemies, we know who our enemies are. Know all your enemies, we know who our enemies are. So obviously this one takes a turn. If you know any of the lore about the album In the Aeroplane Over the Sea and why it was written, it was because the singer of Neutral Milk Hotel, Jeff Mangum, one day decided to read Anne Frank's diary. And after reading it, he kind of had this whole thing about it, about just how moving and meaningful it was. And friends say that he had a total mental breakdown over it, right? And it was actually a part of the downfall of the band breaking apart and affecting his mental health, which started with that, about the book and then it stretched from that to his music in general and surrounding his friends. And yeah, so I feel like this verse definitely circles back to the story about Anne Frank. Obviously, I know they buried her body with others, her sister and mother and 500 families. And if you know any lore about Anne Frank, can't believe I just said lore. If you know her story, only her father survived, right? So mother and sister died with her. And she remembered me 50 years later. I wish I could save her in some sort of time machine. Pretty self-explanatory, I think. Feeling so moved by this story, he wishes he could have saved her, gone back and saved someone who was so innocent and so bright and so full of passion and maybe that was really inspiring for him, right? Know our enemies, we know who our enemies are. Pretty self-explanatory, I think. Last verse. Goldeline, my dear, we will hold and freeze together, far away from here. There is sun and spring and green forever. But now we move to feel, for ourselves inside some stranger's stomach. Place your body here, let your skin begin to blend itself with mine. Okay, so maybe Goldeline is the final revealed name of this comely person. So I'm going to refer to this comely person as Goldeline from now on. So I really like how in the beginning it's talking about, okay, this Goldeline is dying, and then the rest of the song is talking about Goldeline's life. And in this last verse, they're together, and maybe even though he might have some kind of resentment, like mentioned before, because he refers to Goldeline as hollow and stuff like that, despite that, they both, especially, okay, back up, especially because, like I said before, maybe there had been something happen where either before or after, like them meeting the friend, they were infatuated with the narrator because, smelling of semen all under the garden. So this last verse would answer that question to be before, maybe, because maybe they were in love a little bit or lusting, and then something happened where Goldeline was with that friend and it ended weird, and now she's at the end of her life. And maybe the narrator is at the end of his life too, and they're together and kind of maybe been long lost lovers, and they're finally kind of coming together, right? So we will fold and freeze together, far away from here. There's sun and spring and green forever, so heaven. Maybe they've both died by this point, right? And they're in the afterlife together. There's sun and spring and green forever, so it sounds very peaceful, very afterlife kind of way. For ourselves inside some stranger's stomach, maybe stranger's stomach referring to God, and the stomach is like this afterlife, and it is spring and green forever and sun, and right? And then place your body here, let your skin begin to blend itself with mine. So maybe after this afterlife and they're resting here, they can't exist forever, they just meet there. And by let your skin begin to blend itself to mine, maybe they're finally they're coming together finally, and then mending, and maybe just turning into nothing, I guess, or being digested back into God because they're in the stomach, right? So it's really kind of, this could be a stretch. This could be a big stretch shot in the dark, but this is how I kind of think of it. It starts with talking about Goldeline, they're dying, bringing up the past, small at first, giving hints, and then going totally into this, like starting from the beginning of Goldeline's life until the end, to where they die, and now they're together. I feel like that's like the closest interpretation that I have had about it. And of course, if you interpret it any other way and you have comments about what I'm saying, please leave it below, because I love to talk about this stuff. I love to learn about it. I love to hear points of views. Anthropology is like my thing. So, yeah, that's that song. This was a long ramble. It is a long song, so. But thank you for listening. I wish I had more to say because I just went on this whole ramble. Now I'm like, okay, I'm done, bye. But anyway, thank you very much. Please give your thoughts. I'd love to hear it. I'll do this again soon, I'm sure.